and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known throughout the United States and internationally for the last 38 years as the Money Lady. And for those of you that have been watching me and listening to me for the many years I've been broadcasting, you know that that is truth. Commitment to empowering you to become better citizens of this great United States of America through financial empowerment, enabling you to make the decisions to improve the quality of your life and the life of your families. So today I have as a continuation of a subject matter that I think is so important today, and that is real estate investing. And I brought on our first segment last week, the key players of the Real Estate Investors Association, which is a national organization. We brought the executive director and two of the former presidents of the Cincinnati Real Estate Investors Association. And if you will recall, I recommended that anyone that's interested in learning about the power of real estate, and I don't care what the economy is doing, okay? Stocks are going to go up and down, and bonds are going to go up and down, but real estate is land, and it is limited. It's not an unlimited amount of land. You can't keep manufacturing land, and everybody needs some place to live. That's just the truth. Everybody needs some place to live. So why not learn about this and make yourself some money, okay? Make yourself some money. So today I have, on today's segment, I'm interviewing two real estate investors. One African-American female and one just a regular white guy, okay? He's making a bunch of money too. And so, you know me, I'm going to keep it real and I'm going to cut to the chase. So I'm going to be talking to them about their experiences, because a lot of people still think this is beyond their ability. And I'm here to tell you that real estate really is the great equalizer, because people are always buying and selling something. And you might as well get the education through RIA and then execute. So I got two people here that are going to talk to you about that whole process and what is involved, and give you some tips in case you are really serious about doing this. And I hope you are, because it's just too good to pass up. People got to live someplace, okay? And I'm not talking about you parents that are providing housing for your adult children. I'm talking about people have to be renters or they're owners, one or the other. So enough of that. Let's get into the meat of the show today. And I welcome you, and we're looking forward to a great, great show. Okay, where should I begin? Anita, Anita Johnson. Nice to meet you. And Nick Motorelli, two investors. Where do I want to begin? Let's start with you, Nick.
All right.
How long you been in the business?
I've been in real estate for 28 years now. 28 years. Full-time for 20.
You must have started when you were 10.
Thank you.
Because you don't look.
You are my new best friend.
You definitely do not look like you have been out here.
Thank you.
28 years.
Yes.
And what about you?
For about 11 years.
11 years. And let's talk about this 28-year journey.
Okay.
What provoked you to get involved in real estate?
Well, it was one of those things where I wanted to have a different type of lifestyle than I had. I was working a job for an Air Express company and wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to make more money, and I wanted to be in a Hawaiian shirt on the tropical beach.
Why not?
Right?
Sounds like a plan.
I mean, that's what I thought was going to happen. And so I decided to give some of this stuff a try.
Okay.
Went out and bought my first rental, and then spent 3 years hating life.
Now tell me why.
Well, because it was a duplex, and I bought it with no money down using certain techniques.
Okay.
So everything was going according to plan, and then I moved to Tenants in, which is what you had to do. Unfortunately, see, I was told that if you are going to buy real estate, buy a multifamily, because then if one unit's vacant, you've got some money coming in on the other unit.
Right, okay.
I discovered that with the way I am, 2 tenants meant 2 nightmares. So it didn't really work well for me from that point of view. And so after 3 years, we finally sold the thing. Because
I just sold it
to get, and I said, I'm getting out of real estate. And then my wife said, well, let's back up a little bit here before we get hasty. She said, you got it with no money down, right?
Right.
And I said, yes. And she said, and we made money almost every month. Out of the 36 months we had it, we made money 32 of those months.
Okay, that's not bad.
No. And I said, that's true. It was good cash flow when they were both paying. And she said, and when we sold it, we pocketed some money.
Yes.
Quite a bit, actually. Not too bad.
Right.
Because it had paid down and it was an assumable loan. I just assigned it right over to someone else.
Right.
And she said, so why don't we just figure out how to do real estate without tenants, since you don't like tenants?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so I decided I wasn't going to be a real estate investor. I was going to be a real estate entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so instead of investing my money into buying properties and holding them for that investment to grow, that I would rather get educated on, use my knowledge and apply it to situations to make money that way, as opposed to investing money and time in long term.
So let me be clear. So you transitioned from being a real estate investor to a real estate advisor?
Real estate entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
So what I do is I apply knowledge to situations and I create a profit, so I'm in and out of each deal. I don't really keep anything anymore.
Okay, so you quick buy, quick sell. Is that kind
Generally, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's talk about you, Anita.
Sure, yeah, I got started a little bit differently.
Okay.
I, like Nick, was working as well.
Okay.
And I am still fully employed, working in a corporate environment.
Okay.
And decided, hey, I want something a little bit different. I had been surrounded by a number of people who were kind of entrepreneurial in their thinking. And I did not know that there were these creative ways to acquire real estate. So the only thing that I knew to do was go to a bank and get a loan and purchase a property. And that's what I did. And so I got started as an investor, buy and hold primarily, and acquired different rental properties.
Single family or
single
multiple
family,
or what?
I also got into multifamily.
Okay.
And so for me, the journey has been one more of trying to make sure that I could figure out how to grow my wealth. So I started on an investor standpoint, and I am working to transition more to the entrepreneur, learning about all of those creative ways that you can actually acquire properties and continue to build your wealth.
Very, very interesting. Did you have the challenges of tenants that Nick ran into?
Yes, I have.
What is it about tenants? What happens?
They're
Because this is
interesting.
different in the United States as opposed to Europe, where in Europe, tenants actually treat the homes as if they're their own property. They take care of the home.
Well, and you know, most tenants do. They really do. It's a matter of whether or not you are able to properly screen them.
Okay, it's
And
the
I didn't
screening.
know how to do that.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that that's all it took to make it a better
Was just
experience,
identifying.
was just having a better
So how,
screening
may I
process.
ask you, because I owned a mortgage bank for many, many years, and one of the things that I did on what I call marginal underwriting risk, I actually went to their homes unannounced. And if the place looked chaotic and unclean, then my underwriting decision was pretty crisp. And that is, I was not going to allow them to finance a home, because that marginal credit reflected a very marginal lifestyle that I was not willing to sign my name. At that time, if I signed my name, I had the liability on a chargeback on a mortgage loan. So again, that's a lot of money to be looking at for somebody that's a little bit
Sure.
crazy.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
It just is. So you're saying that in your case, how did you screen tenants?
So for me, one of the things that I've chosen to do, because I worked full time,
Yes.
my tax advisor said, hey, you know, what I advise people when they work full time is to get a property management company.
Ah, yes.
Okay?
Okay.
Because what are you going to do when they call you at 2 o'clock in the middle of the night or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you're at work? And so that for me worked well. However, so they managed all the screening.
Okay.
However, you also have to manage the property managers, okay? Because there are some times you can run into, now most times my experience has been excellent.
Okay.
But I have had a couple of property management companies that I've actually had to fire.
Well, girl.
So, you know,
yeah.
you have to stay on top of it. Even
Now,
though,
why did you fire him?
For a number of reasons.
Okay.
One was that I felt like my properties were staying vacant too long.
Oh, yeah.
So even though they say, hey, we are marketing your property to get it occupied and eliminate this vacancy, I did not feel they were doing all that they could.
Okay.
The other thing is being not present in the same location where your property is at, you instill a lot of trust in your property manager. And so when a property goes vacant and there is turnover, okay, there's just the normal, in some cases you'll have tenants who have torn it up, but
Okay.
most times, as Nick mentioned, you know, they do take care of the place, but there's the normal wear and tear that comes
Yeah.
with the turnover.
Right.
And so I would see these bills that I thought were extremely high for the amount of work that needed
Like
to be
carpet
done.
cleaning and painting and that
Right,
type of
right.
thing.
But they
Okay.
were charging me, it seemed like they were charging me a lot more than what they should be charging me, okay? Because I had a little bit more knowledge and understanding as I have been doing this for a while. And so those are some of the typical reasons for why you may need to look for another property manager, but no different than if you are managing the property yourself and you have to stay on top of the tenants, you also have to manage property managers as well.
That is very, very interesting.
But
What are
it's
your
nice,
thoughts?
though, if you have a property manager, because then you're only managing one instead
Right.
of all the tenants.
correct.
Right,
But
right.
the problem there, though, is that the economies of scale come into play. If you've only got 1 or 2 units or 3 or 4 units, you can't really afford to pay the property manager because then you're at negative cash flow.
Right, right. That is something that a lot of people are not aware of and don't have the skill set to work with tenants and individuals. It does require a level of skill.
Yes.
And I would say as a female, did you run into challenges with them being respectful of your ability to evict them and
Well,
those
for
types of
me,
things?
because I was using the property management company, they handled all of that. Now, what
Okay.
I needed to do, though, again, I needed to manage and stay on top of the property manager. So
Okay.
making sure that I was pulling the lever, pulling the
Okay.
trigger to say, hey, I want this done on this timing, and I need to make sure that you and I talk about the process and make sure we're on the same page with everything that's being done. So I did not run into that problem because I didn't have to deal with the tenant directly.
Okay, that is very, very, very good. But you did,
I
correct,
did,
Nick?
and my problem is that I have a compassionate side.
I
And
believe
it's
it.
hard for me to put people on the street. It really
It's
is.
hard for, I think, humans. We always think it could happen to me.
Exactly. So you have to disassociate yourself with that and say, look, this is a business.
I'm not a
You're-
church.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that was hard for me.
Yeah,
And it
okay.
just,
So your wife didn't play a role in trying to, or was she doing her own thing?
well, she was doing her own thing at that time, and of course back then, you know, technology was less than what it is now, and so I would get in my car and drive 20 miles one way to get to the rental property I had on the first of the month, thinking that, oh, yeah, it's the first of the month. Everyone wants to pay me on the first, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Well, they either weren't there or they wouldn't have it. So I'd come back on the second, and I would come back on the third, and you know, I just didn't know how to handle this.
I
because they had
gotcha.
to pay in cash. They didn't have checking accounts.
Oh, wow.
So I had to collect in
Okay,
cash when they
okay,
had it.
when they had
And when I
it.
finally would catch up with them, they would give me an excuse as to why they didn't have it. So
Right. Actually, I have an associate of mine who is a large investor, and he has low-end properties, and he actually does go to every property. He collects rent every 2 weeks. Can you believe that? Because he said when they get paid, he gets paid first.
payday rent, payday, yes.
Yeah. And I said, how do you have the time? He said, well, that's just the cost of doing business, Michelle. He said, they pay me cash. I'm going to be there. He said, I want to look at my property, make sure they haven't torn up anything, and I'm going to collect rent. And I always thought that was just a tough way to make money.
It is. But now he
Gosh.
probably, when he gets there, he probably has several doors to knock on first. I had two.
Ah.
It wasn't worth the effort and wasn't worth the gas money.
So tell me what you do now in terms of she buys and holds property. Isn't that your investment
That's
strategy?
correct. So most of what I've done up to this point has been buy and hold rentals.
Okay.
Single family, I've had a couple of multifamily. What I have been focusing on more so though in the past couple of years is wholesaling.
Tell me about that.
So with wholesaling, what you are doing is you're working with sellers, many of whom are in various situations. They're motivated to sell. They really need to sell. They may have tried a number of different avenues to try to sell, and they have not been successful. And so as the real estate investor or entrepreneur, you're coming in, you're working with them to negotiate a deal on their property, you're getting the property under contract, and then you're assigning your interest in that contract to someone else. So similar to what Nick shared earlier, you're kind of in and out of the transaction, but all the while you're still helping individuals in terms of purchasing their properties or helping them to get rid of a headache that they otherwise could not get rid of.
So let me understand, and Nick, you chime in, because this to an average person is like, what did you just say?
Yes.
Tell me what it is. What is wholesaling?
Wholesaling is when you get a property under contract for an amount that is far below market value.
Okay, give me an example, illustration. $100,000
$100,000 property, your wholesale value is going to be around 65% of that to 70% of that, less any repairs that it needs.
Okay, so you go the house market value, not what their mortgage balance is.
Right.
Correct.
Market value is 100. They got to get rid of it. You go to the table. You offer them 65
to 70, somewhere in that range.
or 70. So you got a $30,000 spread to bring it to market.
And what I do is I'll get it under contract, and then I'll find someone who actually wants to either rent that property out and needs to get a good price but doesn't have to steal it.
Okay.
And then I'll just wholesale that contract to them and let them buy the contract from me for maybe $10,000. I'll sign my contract over, and then they go to the closing and they buy the property for the $65,000 or $70,000.
Correct.
So now they're into it for 75
Whoa!
or so. Yeah, so they're into it for a good price that they want, which gives them a nice cash flow, a good return on their investment, cash return on their investment.
And there's no bank financing.
No bank financing involved at all.
Man alive.
And something that I didn't know about, so as you talked in the other segment about RIA and the value of Cincinnati RIA, that's just one of the ahas that I had, because again, the only thing that I knew about was going to a bank, getting traditional financing. I had a great job, great credit, could get any type of loan that I wanted. And so that is how I got into real estate investing. However, when I came to Cincinnati and I went to RIA, I started hearing about all these different strategies that I had never heard of before. What in the world is wholesaling?
I just asked.
Okay, you know, you've got people buying and selling notes. So there's a number of ways to make money all along at the same time, helping other people.
Well, how do you find these people? Are those the little things on the telephone poles?
There's those, yeah. Those
they
are called
do
Bandit
work.
signs.
They
those
work. They
yeah.
do work.
Yeah, I don't really use them very much, but I know people who do and say that they do work because there are issues with signage laws in certain areas, and so you can actually get in trouble with those from time to time.
Really, I didn't know that.
And there's other places where people have had Bandit signs up and they're still sitting there. They've been there for 2 years. You know, and no one really cares. But I just don't really care for that strategy, although I know that people are doing pretty well.
So what do you do?
We have people that bring us deals because I attended network meetings. I let people know that I buy houses, and if they bring me a house, I can pay them a finder's fee.
Right.
We'll send direct mail pieces to lists of people who probably could be motivated. You know, vacant house owners, things like that. We run ads, and let people know we buy houses. I tell everybody I buy houses.
Right.
Give out cards that say I buy houses. And you have to have several modes of marketing going on simultaneously.
So how long did it take you to get into wholesaling?
Well, here's the thing. When I started out, after I got out of the rental business, I put a property under contract, cheap, and then turned around and found someone that wanted to buy it from me. And I actually wholesaled a couple of properties before I knew there was such a thing as wholesaling. I didn't know what it was. This is back in the 80s. And I didn't know there was an actual thing called wholesaling until I went to a boot camp and learned how to do it on a more regular basis.
Okay.
And
so
then,
you had to go to a camp.
I went to a boot camp and learned about it and just found out that what I was doing had a name.
Okay.
And then, but I wanted to do more of them, and
they
showed me ways to do it more often. But see, then the market is never static. You know, it goes up and down. Real estate markets go up and down. And competition comes in and out. So if you're doing something and it's making money and it's pretty easy, it's not going to be long for other people are going to catch on. Next thing you know, you're not making as much as you were making.
Right, your
it's a lot harder to find
tighter.
deals. Your spreads are tighter. So I had to come up with something different.
Okay.
Well, you know, you don't just wholesale on price alone or on price alone. Sometimes you can wholesale the terms. So I found, because you have to buy, if you're going to make money in real estate the way I do, where you're going to be in and out, you have to either buy at a wholesale price or on wholesale terms. So let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about.
This is amazing.
that same $100,000 house, let's say that,
Yeah.
that he's not willing to sell it for $70,000 or $65,000, which is the case for a lot of people in many cases because they can't.
Right, because
They
they're
owe too much.
underwater. Yeah, they're underwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what if I take that same $100,000 house and say, look, I'll give you $100,000 for your $100,000 house. But this is the way I'm going to give it to you.
Oh, okay, let me see
Yeah.
how you're going to give it
Yeah,
to
this is
me.
what I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you at $700 a month, you know, for
You're
up
going
to
to do an
5 years.
installment sale? Is that what you're
Exactly. It's
saying?
an installment sale. I'll give it to you for $700 a month, which matches your payment, and pay you off at some point in the future, 5, 6 years down the road, 7 years down the road. And then I turn around and wholesale that contract to someone who wants to live in the house.
What?
So now they move in, and they can't get bank financing today
Right.
because maybe they have a car
divorce
payment
or something,
a
you
car
know.
payment that's got their debt ratios out of line. Maybe they went into foreclosure a couple years ago, and in 2 more years they'll be able to qualify for a loan. Although that's changed, by the way.
Yeah.
You can get it done faster these days.
Really?
But yeah, back then you had to wait 5 years.
That's
before you
what
could
I
get another
thought. I
loan.
was an
Yeah.
underwriter, but I've been out the industry. So what's the
Yeah.
turn now? 2 years?
2 and 3 years you can be starting
On
looking at
FHA?
houses,
Oh,
getting
wow.
financing. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So, but they're in a situation where they can't get it now, but they
Okay.
can get one soon. They can get a loan soon. And they're going to live in the house, so they
Right.
don't have to steal it. They don't have to get a
Nope.
great deal, but they'd like to move only once. So they move into the house they like and just rent it for a while, maybe on a lease option, or maybe I've put together a land contract with the seller. It just depends on their situation. That person takes it over from me for a fee. The fee is my profit. I walk away. Then they go ahead and they deal
Wow.
directly with the owner of record on the property, and then at some point in the near future, they get a loan and cash them out.
Well, isn't that kind of like a land contract?
Yeah, there's land contracts, there's lease purchase. They're both similar in structure. They are different animals.
Yeah.
In Ohio, they're a lot more similar because of the way you can remove someone's interest on a land contract. It's very similar to an eviction. Other states, if someone moves into a house on a land contract, it's an immediate foreclosure if they miss the first payment. In Ohio, it's not the same way. It's very lenient on getting rid of someone who's not performing on a land contract.
Okay, because I always thought when I was in the industry, you wanted to make sure it was recorded. There were some technicalities. You had to have it, it had to be recorded. And actually, that was that person's home. They were still responsible for taxes and
That's
insurance
correct,
and all
because
of
it's
that.
considered an installment sale under
Right,
IRS
it is.
standards.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for them to get financing when it's time. Because, you know, when they were looking to buy that house initially, and they couldn't quite get it right now because they were going for a purchase money loan, and you didn't know this.
Right.
Purchase money loans are a little bit harder to get than refinance.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, if they buy that land contract from me and move in there and make payments for just 1 year, now they're eligible to do a refi. So someone who could qualify for a refi might not be able to qualify for a purchase money loan.
Correct.
So they go ahead and move in, make payments for a year, and next thing you know, they're qualified without, nothing's changed in their life. But they're
Except the
qualified
con-
now
right,
because
because
now they're
of-
doing a refi.
That's
as opposed
amazing.
To as opposed to a purchase money loan.
That is perfect.
If,
That's
if
beautiful.
nothing else, that's what's been able to save people and been able to get them to finance the house.
You know what? This is fascinating.
Right, and I was going to add on
Yes,
to, I
would you
think,
please?
I think the change in the market conditions is exactly what people have to pay attention to. Because again, the only strategy I knew was go into a bank and get a loan. Okay,
Right.
well that works when you're in a certain type of market, okay? But after a certain period of time when the market crashed, people found themselves in situations where they could no longer go out and get loans, so then how do I then acquire properties, right? And so expanding your knowledge and really learning through organizations like RIA or networking with other people who have done that has really been instrumental in helping me to be able to learn a lot of other techniques and strategies where I can acquire properties. Now, even with wholesaling, if I choose to, I could choose to acquire that property and keep it. Okay, but what I've been focusing on is getting in and out, because you can now, as a landlord, one of the key strategies that landlords really need to learn, and most of them may not know about it, is wholesaling, primarily because you're going to have expenses, okay? And sometimes if you own multifamilies, you will have expenses that are much larger than what you've expected, okay? And that affect you in multiple ways. And so being able to wholesale gives you access to quick cash that can help supplement or offset those expenses that you may not have otherwise been able to get access to.
That is absolutely amazing. What you have just shared is, I'm just sitting here like, what?
And I'm a big proponent of having more than one tool in your toolbox
I
as far as
totally
buying and selling
agree,
houses,
yeah.
because there's markets where wholesaling works really well, there's markets where retailing works really well. That's where you buy that house you go ahead and buy it at a cheap price, fix it up, and resell it at retail
Okay.
price. The same house, just a different exit strategy. Or just using seller financing, because as markets go up and down, houses are easier and harder to sell. When they're easier to sell, you work with wholesaling, you work with retailing. When they're harder to sell, you switch over into seller financing mode. Because sellers still need to sell their house. They're still being transferred, they're still getting divorced, there's still people dying, and they can't sell the house because there's no one that can buy it. Well, there's few people that can buy it.
Right.
And so there's an inventory that just builds up. And so one way to help them with that is to set up some type of seller financing to give them relief from those monthly mortgage payments and to give them the price that they need because of what they owe. So if you can do seller financing, then you can operate in the system like that, because you can rescue them while providing a way for the buyer who can't get a loan, because loans are tight right now, to get into the house that they want. So you're solving two people's problems, not just one. And then as the market turns around and it gets strong, then you switch back into the other mode.
That is very, very interesting. So this has been, from your perspective as a corporate animal, and learning how to do it by the rules. And frankly, that's what I did. I mean, it was all by the rules, and loan to value and blah, 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 credit and scoring and all of that, and underwriting. And that's the official way. But there are restrictions, because you can't buy but so many properties.
That's correct.
Bank financing, there's limits on Fannie Mae guidelines on property. So now you've capped out.
That's correct.
On the number of properties you can have, period. So now you can go this other way to continue to hold properties, but to also generate additional little pockets of money.
Correct.
Yeah, and your exit strategy can be different even on doing wholesale terms. Like, let's say that if I put a property under contract for so much per month at a fair price, I don't have to wholesale that to Anita who wants to live in the house. I can go ahead and keep it and be the landlord on that one. That's a way for me to acquire rental properties as well.
But why would a person, and I'm just asking this, maybe it's because I've been in this industry for too long and I'm just jaded. Why would a person sell you their home under an installment sale when they can just rent it themselves? Why would they even need to deal with you on this?
Many of them are afraid to rent it out because they don't know how to be a landlord. They don't know how to collect payments.
Oh,
they're concerned.
okay.
They would rather have me come in and help them out with a situation like that.
So are they still on title when you do
yeah,
that?
well, that depends. Yeah, on both types, whether I'm doing a lease purchase or a land contract, they still retain title. So getting the property back if they have to is not that difficult. And that makes them comfortable.
Okay.
But dealing with tenants in the house who actually have a buyer's mindset means that they're going to deal with someone who is more likely to take care of the house, more likely to do little things to improve it, because they want to get a loan soon, and they want that thing to appraise for as much as possible.
Right.
As opposed to a tenant who's going to live there for a while and just do, even a good tenant does normal wear and tear, so when they move out, it's worth a little less than when they moved in, generally.
Yes, actually. And then you have the cost of cleaning it up and fixing it and that type of thing.
Yep.
That is very, very, very interesting. And under the terms that you're talking about, you're not dealing with realtors per se, correct?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes realtors bring us the deals.
Sometimes realtors bring you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know,
how does that work?
Well, sometimes realtors, with their marketing in place, they come across sellers who can't list their home because they don't have enough equity to pay the realtor at the closing.
Oh, so how does the realtor make their money?
Well, so the realtor would just let me know about that property, and I'll go and put together a deal and then pay them a finder's fee for putting it together.
Because something is better than nothing.
Something's better than nothing, yeah.
Realtors, give me the camera here. Realtors, you can make some money here. I'm serious. What's 20% finder's fee, 10%?
It's usually just in a few $100s.
Oh, it's a few $100s?
Because I don't make a whole lot when I put together a deal like that.
I was just trying to find out.
Yeah.
But that's still better than them getting nothing.
Right, and there's another way they can make money. Let's say they've got a house that they've listed and it's been listed for 6 months and it's about ready to expire.
Okay.
And they've got a buyer who wants to buy it, but the buyer couldn't quite qualify. Well, what I can do is come in and put together a lease purchase that puts that buyer in the house, and so when they finance it a year or two down the road, the agent gets their full commission, because they were able to secure the commission on that one up until it sells.
That is nice.
Otherwise, the deal was going to fall apart. They were going to make nothing.
They were going to make absolutely
nothing. Listing would
nothing.
expire. The buyer goes and buys something else if they can, or rents somewhere. Everyone loses in a scenario like that. But if I put something together, put them in there, and lock that commission in for the realtor for the time in the future when that gets purchased, everybody wins.
You know what I find so amazing, and Mr. Shapiro, who is an investor, you all know him, and he talked about this, about how there are always people that have these situations. That's what young people call situations.
Sure.
Have these situations where they're trying to get rid of property. And you know, you never think about it coming from your world,
That's
you know,
right.
the corporate world, because the corporate world is so predictable and people have good credit and people have good jobs. But things are changing.
That's right.
As corporations restructure and people are finding themselves out.
Outsourced, downsized.
Downsized, out of a job. And so how does a person in that situation come into your arena and do well? Do they start with RIA the way that you started and learned?
Yes.
Ideally, they would. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't, because you're going to get educated. If you're going to be in real estate, you're going to
you're
get an
gonna
education. And there's a myth
That's
that,
right.
that you don't need an education. You're getting one.
Oh,
And it's you're going to either get it from RIA or you're going to get it from the real world. And the real world is a whole lot more expensive.
I know that's right, because the consumer is a mad hatter. I have to say that. The public, I shouldn't put it like that, but people just have situations.
Right. And no different than, say, in the corporate world, you went to school
Yes.
to get a degree to practice whatever profession you're practicing. The same with real estate. You need to educate yourself. And so when I started, I didn't know about RIA. Didn't know anything about RIAs. It wasn't until I moved to Cincinnati in 2008 and someone turned me on to RIA. And I went to a couple of meetings, and I started hearing people talking about things, and I thought, what in the world are they talking about?
Yes.
And so as I continued to kind of watch and go, and then you start networking with people, and that's the biggest benefit. And I think, as Nick shared, you got to have multiple tools in your toolbox. And so I think coming from a corporate arena, a lot of people, the only thing they think about is buying and holding a property.
Right.
Okay, because that's the only thing that they're really exposed to and that they really know. But I will say that for me, I made sure that I got in and started networking with people who were doing the things that I wanted to do. And I started making sure that I was paying attention and learning some of the different techniques so that I could do more than just one strategy.
Right.
Because when I first started, I didn't know or think about any of these things about the market changing and, oh my gosh, real estate, it truly is local. So real estate in Louisiana is not the same as the market in Ohio. And Ohio's market is not the same as California's market. And so really getting in and understanding that and learning the tools so I could figure out how to apply it to what I wanted to do.
So let me ask you a question. Is there much value, and you already know, the television, infomercials, real estate to get rich, all of these different gurus talking, and these classes are not cheap.
Correct.
Oh my God, you're going to pay
That's right.
to play. Is there a better way? Is RIA a better way?
I think RIA is an untapped gold mine.
Goodness
and the reason I
gracious.
say that is because you're exactly right. There are tons of classes and infomercials you'll see. If you go online, you can just Google real estate investing and you will get tons of information. The thing with RIA is that it's local to your market.
Okay.
There are people there who are doing it every day. Okay. You've got what we call newbies, or people who have been seasoned. They've been doing it for decades. And so somewhere within that RIA community, you're going to find someone who is doing exactly what you're interested in doing, whether it be rehabbing or landlording or wholesaling, buying and selling notes. Someone is doing it. And so, as the saying goes, you want to surround yourself with people who are doing things like what you want to do. And that's where I think RIA is an untapped gold mine, because we get a lot of people that come to Cincinnati RIA only after they have gone to some expensive boot camp. And I'm not putting down any of the boot camps or any of the national
It's
gurus,
your money,
because
you know.
there are some of the national gurus who have excellent courses. Okay, we actually purchase and acquire a lot of their courses for our library to help our members. However, if you can get the benefit of networking with people that are right in your backyard, okay, that understand your local market and that you can surround yourself with, that is an untapped gold mine.
Yeah, using the same strategies they teach on those TV seminars, but tweaked for our area.
I think that's important because I will tell you, I watched them and I said, is this real? But then you look at what it's going to cost, and I go back 30 years with RIA when they were small, and I was one of the bankers. And I just felt that, gosh, all this information, I mean, the library, the people, unbelievable. And there wasn't, and this is just my observation as an outsider, it didn't seem to be a lot of competition within the organization. People were open-minded to share, because sometimes in corporate, you know, it gets real grimy and competitive, and nobody's going to tell you anything. It's like, oh, fish or fly, you know, and you're like, but I don't know how to do this. But I found that to be the case from my observations of that particular organization. You're right, it's a quiet kept secret.
Yeah, and in fact, it's sometimes one of your best sources for finding buyers for your deals. If you're a wholesaler, you're going to a room full of real estate investors looking for deals, and deals are hard to find. I mean, right now, especially in today's market, the amount of deals that are available has been compressed.
Why do you think that's so in this local market?
In this local market, because what happened was some hedge funds came in rolling into town about 2011 or so and started buying up properties at higher prices than would make sense for us.
Right.
And so the inventory of houses available to buy at below wholesale prices was diminishing. At the same time, more and more people were becoming wholesalers and entering the marketplace. So you had more competition, and lower inventory means harder to find.
Right.
So it became less
I'm glad
about
you
knowing.
talked about those hedge funds, because I didn't get a chance to get into that in the last show with the presidents. But hedge funds did come into this community.
Well, yeah, they came in here and they drove prices up to the point where even they couldn't afford to buy them anymore.
I was like, are you serious?
It didn't make sense for them. It actually didn't make sense for what they were paying anyway.
I'm like,
but it was even worse by the time they left.
Gee.
They left us, like, you know, in a lurch.
So they still have to be able to get these properties either rented or sold based upon what they've invested. Because they have investors, billions of dollars of money, and those people are expecting returns on their money, right?
Unfortunately, the way they presented it to these investors, they didn't quite properly, you know, vet the entire cost of owning that property as a rental, and so they were promising returns they couldn't deliver, but they weren't promising giant returns. So, you know, maybe some of them were breaking even, maybe some of them weren't, but the idea was is they would tell the investor, look, you know, it may or may not have worked, and we told you that in the very beginning. But the problem was is they reached a point where they were buying them at prices because they had to.
Right,
that
they
wasn't
had
make
all
sense
that
at all
money.
anymore.
Right,
yeah,
right.
And once they drove those prices up because of the demand was rising, and the inventory was shrinking because foreclosures were starting to shrink down a little bit, and competition was increasing with people who wanted to do wholesaling, they got to the point where they couldn't even make minimum profits.
Oh,
so
they
left
out.
town.
They
left town here last year for the most part.
Okay.
And left us all trying to pick up the pieces from that.
Because I do check and keep track of rental activity. And I just noted it's the same companies that were involved in these properties they're trying to rent. And I was like, you aren't going to get that kind of rent. Who told you that? And I said, I bet you these are hedge funds.
Well, because after the real estate bust in 2008, very few people could get mortgages for a while. I mean, you had, even if you had stellar credit, it was hard to get a loan.
It didn't matter.
So that meant rentals were increasing because people still wanted to live in houses.
Right.
So rentals were increasing in demand, and so they were increasing in price, and so we had an artificial inflation of rents that's only temporary. And so these hedge funds came in based on those inflated rents, and they tried to drive them up even further, but by having more rentals on the market, they ended up driving them down while driving the price up, which is a double whammy.
Counterintuitive, crazy.
Counterproductive, yeah, absolutely.
Totally crazy.
And so when they
That's what happens when people come into markets they don't know. That's the fear always, when you're playing games in markets you don't know. It's not like stocks and bonds. It isn't.
Right.
It is not like stocks and bonds. This is a completely different animal. So is there money to still be made in real estate? Can you make money?
Yes.
Can you make real money?
You can make real money.
Not play money.
Yes.
This is not Monopoly.
Yes.
Can we make money?
But the rules have changed.
Tell me the rules.
It used to be you get a good education on how to buy these properties and how to make money with those types of techniques, and then you do it. But see, now, since inventory is shrinking, it's been learn the techniques now, all in advance, up front of the need, so that you can operate in any marketplace, up or down, and then it's about marketing. Because now it's about finding off-market properties, because there are too many people that are bidding on MLS properties, so that it's difficult to buy anything there. There's too many people bidding on Craigslist properties and calling on Craigslist properties. Anything
Who does Craigslist?
Oh, lots of people.
Really?
They'll farm it very diligently.
Realtors will do it?
Well,
as
realtors
well.
are trying to list properties, investors are trying to buy properties, and so these sellers that are putting ads in there are just getting hammered with virtual assistants that are being hired by people to contact everyone in there, and they're just getting hammered with requests. So any property that is publicly available for sale, either at the courthouse steps or in the MLS or in the Craigslist, they're all being chased by everybody out there who has some way to buy it. So the trick now is to find properties that aren't publicly being offered for sale, by contacting people who might be interested in selling their house based on the situation that you know they have. They have a vacant house, they have a divorce, they filed bankruptcy. There's a number of things that can cause people to probably need to sell a house. So your best bet is to focus on lists like that. And
so
now
would you
the name of the game is marketing.
Go to the attorneys if you're dealing with bankruptcy.
Let attorneys know that you buy houses. So when they get someone in, they just hey, go call Nick.
Right.
You can purchase lists. You can purchase lists for any type of owner. Demographic that you want. And then you begin to market to those lists, direct mail. And then you'll get calls from those individuals. Sometimes you'll contact people and they didn't obviously know that they needed to sell or know that they wanted to sell. But it's been something that may have been sitting in the back of their mind, and they get something from you in the mail, and you are now the solution to their problem.
And the only one they know of, because no one else has contacted them.
This has been such an educational interview process. I must tell you this. I'm sitting up here just going through math calculations. I'm an alpha female, forgive me. I'm like, I can't believe this. Brilliant, absolutely. So the game has changed. In Cincinnati proper, we still got a bunch of vacant, blighted property that the city does not want to deal with. Opportunities, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Huge opportunities.
Talk to me.
Because as we talked about the different types of tools or strategies that you can use to acquire that property, now you're not only helping the individual, and it's a win-win all the way around, but you're also putting a property back in service on the city's tax rolls that maybe was not having the taxes paid. Okay?
Right.
You're now able to get that property from being in a blighted condition to now you've rehabilitated the property and you have basically stabilized it. And so you're actually also helping neighborhoods. And I think that real estate investors oftentimes can kind of get a bad rap in terms of, because you do have people in any industry that are shady and maybe not doing things the way they need to do, but that's why we, from a Cincinnati REIA standpoint, we really focus on making sure that we're providing the right type of education so that people, when they go out in the communities and they do these deals, that they're doing deals the right way and they're doing them ethically. So again, yes, to answer your question, there is money to be made, and you're also helping to turn around neighborhoods.
Because I'm really, Anita, I'm very, very uncomfortable with this type of activity, which is communities cannot survive where there's blighted property. Don't ask me why blighted property are like roaches in the neighborhood. And that the neighborhood, even if it's a nice neighborhood, you have one or two blighted homes, and you can predictably anticipate outcomes.
They're like cancer.
It's an unbelievable thing. I said it's like cockroaches gone crazy. And it may be that house, but sure enough, it's going to be other houses before it's all, even if the people are well-intentioned. Do you recommend that with seniors, particularly elderly people over 80, that they consider selling their homes or working out something, because most of them cannot do the work that is required in their home? I don't believe that an elderly person wants to live in a blighted home. They're just old, and they may not have the resources, particularly if they're widows, to do this. So Is that a market that you feel could benefit from what you do? Because a lot of seniors watch this show. I mean, they're at home. They watch the show. So how could they benefit?
Well, they would want to get rid of the property before it gets too bad, because the worse it gets, the lower the price they're going to get for it.
Okay. So
And-
when you say too bad, what do you mean? Roof? Gone bad?
Yeah, I mean,
furnace?
that's a relative term, I guess. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. So I'm trying to get clarity
Yeah,
here.
I can't give you too much clarity on that, because I don't actually deal in that segment of the marketplace. Because you would be best qualified to sell that property to maybe a landlord who needs to get maybe a little bit below market value, but doesn't have to sell it really, really cheap like we do if we're looking to do a wholesale deal or a flip of some kind. I'm not a good buyer for that kind of person, because I don't want to buy houses really, really cheap from someone who is elderly. I don't want to do that.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
'Cause of the
but
moral
maybe a
issues,
landlord will come in and pay a reasonable price, because he knows he can get a good cash-on-cash return on his investment by buying that property at a reasonable price, because he might buy it for $40,000 and rent it out for $795 a month, while properties in the neighborhood are selling for $48,000, $49,000,
Okay.
$50,000. So he's giving them a reasonable price, 80%, maybe 90% of what it's worth, but yet he can make a good return on his investment, because he's got a cash-on-cash investment.
Yeah, it's got a cash, yeah.
As opposed to
Okay.
me, I'd have to buy that same property for $25,000, and I don't want to do that.
I understand. I understand. You're an honorable man. Thank you. No, seriously, particularly with our seniors. No, the thing that concerns me, very, very early on, I introduced the reverse mortgage product. This is in the early 80s to Cincinnati. And because of my concern, looking on down the road at all of these widows, because the average widow makes $695 a month.
Wow.
That's all she gets. That's it. Those women didn't work. So they don't have any vesting from Social Security. They get their husband's plan. And that's the average income, $695. You're not going to make it on $695 in a home, particularly with this bad weather right now. Gas and electric, water, maintenance, food, phone. So where are we here? You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason I brought that up, because I really would appreciate there being some options for our seniors that don't want to vacate. It's no place like home, but they can't keep it up.
Yeah, and they have to consider too that they might want to sell it sooner rather than later, because if they wait too long and they get taken straight to like a convalescent home, that if they sell it at that point, there's actually a look-back period for some of them where they can go back and recover that money that they got from selling it if they sold it within so many months
It's a
or years.
5-year.
Yeah.
It's a 5-year look
So
back.
it's best
soon
to
to be
sell it.
10. They're looking at 10 now. Yeah.
So it's best to sell it now, move into something that's more easy to manage for you, like maybe an apartment or a condo, where the maintenance on the outside is taken care of for you, and then move towards a convalescent home, so there's no look back that's going to take all the money you just got out of your sale.
You know something, that you've said a mouthful there. And believe it or not, my producer just stepped in and we got 5 minutes left.
Wow.
I know.
It went fast.
The hour went like zip. So I want to say one thing. Senior people, if you got a home and it's a little bit too much for you, because who wants to do a roof at 80? I don't think so. You may want to consider going on and selling your home, getting your money, and moving into a senior facility. Word to the wise, make sure that that facility only rents to seniors, not ex-convicts that are older, okay, because they're senior too, not young people with handicaps, because that's not good. So just keep that in your think about it, and let's do it, okay? The 5-year look back is real. You will have to restore if you do this and go into Medicaid. Okay, back to the interview. This has been great. Any thoughts before I move you on?
Sure. The one thing I would suggest, I would say that, or I would say to anyone who is interested in getting involved in real estate investing, but they think, maybe I can't do it because I work full time. It is doable. I am definitely a testament to that, And I would say that when someone wants to get started, they really should start by educating themselves, because they'll hear a lot of things, like you said, on TV, all these
my
infomercials, and it will sound like it's so easy. But as Nick said, you will get an education one way or
he
the
said
other.
it. I
And
mean,
so,
he said
right, and so it
He
is
said it.
doable, and starting with your local RIA in terms of joining your local RIA, surrounding yourself with a network of people who are doing exactly what it is you want to do. Take that period of time to learn what are the different strategies, and then what might I want to get involved in, and then find some mentors, some people, some coaches who have done it, and they've done it successfully, that are doing it right in your own backyard, and they can help you along the way.
That's wonderful advice, Anita. What about you, Nick?
Well, I've seen a lot of people given the myth that when they want to get into real estate, they're told, find out what you like to do and then learn how to do that really well, and then you'll make money in real estate. So the problem is, it doesn't matter what you like to do or what you're good at. What matters is what the market needs.
I
Because you have
love
to fill
that.
consumer needs.
Right.
Yeah. So, my thing my platform, if I'm going to step up on my soapbox for a minute, is to equip yourself with a series of different techniques that are complementary to one another. And what I mean by that is complementary with the E, C-O-M-P-L-E, because that completes you as an investor.
Right.
Because now, if you equip yourself with a series of specific techniques that will equip you for that, you can make money in any market, up or down.
Right.
Sideways, it doesn't
Right.
matter. And you're going to be equipped to work on the front edge of that change, by the way, which is a very important thing as well, because opportunity is where? On the ground floor.
Right.
Early bird gets the
right.
worm, right?
Right. Absolute truth.
Right. Well, but see, the second mouse gets the cheese. So you don't want to be
Wow.
someone who has to, when the marketplace changes, try to go figure out what to do with that marketplace.
Right.
What you want to do is find someone who's been to every one of those types of marketplace conditions, up, down, or sideways, learn from that person a series of techniques, and so now you're equipped to make money on the front edge of any marketplace change, and that is my soapbox right there.
Well, I must tell you, I am honored and privileged that both of you took time out of your very busy schedules
Thank you
to
for having me.
share
you.
with my viewers this invaluable information. For me, it has been a wake-up call, because truly I've been out of the industry for many years. I owned a mortgage bank, yes, for many years, and sold it, and then got involved in philanthropic activities. And this has been like, whoa, I need to get back involved with RIA on the financing end, because it's all about that money at the end of the day. It really is. But thank you, Nick.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
us.
Anita.
Thank you.
And to my viewers, amazing. I'm telling you, never say you can't learn something more. A part of aging is recognizing that you better keep that brain moving, and you better be willing to grow and to acknowledge what you don't know. And boy, have I learned a lot about real estate, just enough to get my interest right back on track, and to really make a commitment to get back involved with RIA as a student, because you never can stop learning. I'll leave those thoughts with you today. Thank you for being a part of my world and these two remarkable investors. And as always, wishing you much love, great peace, and God bless you. See you next time.